Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and people watching at home on YouTube, streaming this IES meeting. Before I start, I'd like to welcome everybody here tonight, staff and fellow councillors and the Mayor. We would like to acknowledge this land that we meet on today as the traditional lands for the Kaurna people, and that we respect their spiritual relationships with their country. We also acknowledge the Kaurna people as the custodians of the Greater Adelaide region, and that cultural and heritage beliefs are still important to living people, the Kaurna people today. The roll call, I bear two apologies from Councillor Davies and Councillor Tooley. I haven't heard from Councillor Ballalonger. There's no leave of absence as far as I know. And the other non-attendance, like I said, is Councillor Ballalonger. I don't think we've got anybody in public open forum. No. No. Any declarations of interest? No. Thank you. Confirmation of minutes, please. Somebody like to move the last minutes? Councillor Hughes, second Councillor Goldstone. Any discussion? All those in favour? Yeah, it's carried unanimously. Thank you. Business arising from minutes. Any business, Mayor?
Thank you, Chair. I've got a question on page 14 and page 16. Firstly, on page 14, in regard to the status update for the Barossa tourist train, in here it says the bill that the local member put to Parliament was negatived in the House of Assembly. Consequently, it is unlikely that the Barossa tourist train will be re-established, as the state government has planned works within the rail corridor that will further limit the ability. As such, the likelihood of having a Barossa tourist train service in Gawler is now low, so council staff don't believe that there's any further requirement to prepare the requested report. So, Chair, I rang the local member on the weekend to find out any clarification, and his understanding is that any planned works on that corridor have been put on hold. So I guess my question to staff through you is, what are the planned works? And I ask that question because I think that it's probably even more important that we get a report on this matter so that council can have an informed view on what's happening. Are we able to be told what the planned works are? Maybe that has to be part of a report that we get, but I think it's actually critical that we do get a report. The local member tells me that nothing will happen until after the next election. So I think it's quite important that we continue with the Barossa tourist train proposal, see where it goes without throwing the towel in too early. So I guess my question is, what are the planned works that the state government has planned for the rail corridor that will further limit the ability of a tourist train to operate?
Thank you. Do Mr. Delena, do you wish to answer, or you want to take that question on notice? Or CEO?
Yeah, I'm not sure of the specifics. That was a matter that David Barrett was looking at, but I'll take that on notice and we'll get the details. But I'm also happy to make sure that there is a follow-up report back to this committee.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Whether business arising, sorry? Yes. The Mayor? Yes,
just on page 16, in regard to the Williston Local Area Traffic Management Plan, it says it's completed, which the plan is, although I guess the plan is endorsed. I don't think we've completed the plan. Budget allocations to be considered each year. I'm just a bit concerned that this might sit on a shelf. So what reassurance can staff give that this plan won't just sit on a shelf and nothing happen?
Sam? Thank you.
Yeah. Through you, Chair. In regards to the action, the reason it's not as complete is effectively it's just the method that we use to note it's that this resolution now is going to drop off from the business arising per se, not the actual plan itself being completed. The assurance, Madam Mayor, is, I suppose, is similar to the other strategic documents that we've developed. There are high priority actions that we have allocated for. We've got one in the budget that we're completing. It's in the draft budget, and the intent is to progress further at the very least the high and medium priorities as within our 10-year planning horizon. And those allocations are made in the long-term infrastructure asset management plan accordingly. But it is a challenge because we've got a limited capital for new projects, that $3 million cap, and it's just that is the challenge that's before council in terms of how we squeeze in all our objectives within that $3 million each year.
Okay. Subsequent question from the Mayor.
The reason I asked that question is it's probably the highest uptake of community engagement that we've had in recent years. It took nearly 7 years to get this up and running. I just think it's a missed opportunity if we're going to engage with people in one suburb over 250 people, and we don't sort of deliver. So it's just a query, and where we take it. Appreciate there's budget restrictions, but I think if we don't deliver at least in a staged approach, then it really makes a bit of a mockery of community engagement with such strong numbers. So I'm just making that comment.
Thank you, Mayor. Any other questions at all? None. We move on to officers' reports. Item 7.1. Mayor.
I'm happy to move the recommendation with one extra point and a slight variation on point 3. So I'm happy to move point 1 and 2. With 2, note the administration will undertake further investigations into the establishment of a local design review panel for the town of Gawler. 3, request that a further report be presented to this committee at the next IES committee. And 4, provides in principle support for a LDRS full stop.
Is that point 4?
That's point 4. So point 2 is note the administration will undertake further investigations into the establishment of a LDR, local design review panel for the town of Gawler. So slight change. If I can speak to this.
And number 3 is right, is it, before we go on?
So note the administration into the establishment of a local design review panel. So we get, that's correct, yeah.
Yep.
Request to be presented to the next and provides in principle support for a local design review scheme. So, Chair, I'd like to present this motion. I think there's been lots of criticisms with the new planning scheme. However, this is one of the strengths of this new scheme or this new reform, in that we have an opportunity now to develop local design review schemes or panels. Certainly there's a lack of detail coming out of the department, and I suspect that detail will become clear within the next month, probably after July, as it states in the report. I believe that the department is committed to good design, and I think this will contribute to good design in local communities. I think it's something we should be involved in. We certainly need to undertake further investigations in this matter, but I think we need to leave the door well and truly open to embrace a local design review scheme or panel, whatever that might look like, because I think it is an opportunity to improve good design as it relates to planning and the built environment. So I'll leave it at that and look forward to the debate.
Do I have a seconder for that motion, please? Councillor Hughes, you wish to speak? Do you wish to speak? No. Any other further debate? Councillor Goldstein?
Yeah, look, I was quite happy with the original one. I'm a little bit, not concerned, but is there a need for point 4 to make a decision like that when we haven't actually got all the further information? I don't know if this point 4 is necessary myself. Happy with the rest of it, but I was happy with the original one.
Councillor Kosh?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Look, I've got a similar view. I was happy with the first 3. Just my reading of it, it's not a mandatory requirement for developers. There's going to be potentially a cost to us. And I'm just also concerned about the size of the development that might actually access the panel. So I'd prefer to see all that information in the report before I make a decision about moving ahead to actually get a panel endorsed. So at this point, I probably won't be voting for it, and hopefully, if it doesn't get up, I'll just be voting for the first 3. Thank you.
Mayor? So you're happy to remove, is the second happy with that, for remove point 4? Okay. So we'll take point 4 out? Yeah, that's it. Okay. Any further debate on that? You wish to close the debate? Yeah. Okay, I'll put all those in favour. Carried unanimously. Thank you. 7.2. We got a recommendation there, ladies and gentlemen. Councillor Goldstein.
I'd like to move the recommendation that with a slight amendment to it. Point 2 there, the roads that we're looking to undertake a road renaming process on, I'd like to include Hillier Road, Evanston, in that list. And the reason for doing that is that when this I originally asked for point 4 of the original recommendation, which was to come up with this report on the basis that we were having lots of problems out at Hillier, specifically the residential park, because of the 2 Hillier roads. We've got Hillier Road Hillier and we've got Hillier Road Evanston. All of the problems that are mentioned in the report are being experienced by people who live at Hillier Park in terms of emergency vehicles, tradesmen, deliveries, Australia Post, a whole lot of problems because a lot of it gets sent to addresses in Evanston rather than Hillier. So, you know, keeping in mind we've got sort of 350 plus houses out there now and all the rural properties along Hillier Road. I think it's important that Hillier Road Hillier retains its name, but we at least look at renaming Hillier Road Evanston. This is only the first step, so we're not locked into anything. And I do believe that consultation is a necessity before we actually do any further steps. So happy with the report in that regard, but I really would like to see Hillier Road Evanston on that point too.
I have a second to that. Councillor Hughes, you wish to speak to it? No. Any other further discussion? Deputy Mayor Sample.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. This is to do with naming roads. I've always sort of had a mixed bag about the point of why it is that when it comes to the point of people that have been, well, I don't know whether the word's legends or whatever, but have been part of this town and done so much great work. If we're talking about Bruce Eastick, Gil Harnett, Snowy Miller and all those sort of things. But we put down Miller Road. Well, who in the hell's Miller Road? Does it represent anybody particular? Now, the one that we've been referring to here in Everston South, a gentleman by the name of Snowy Miller owned all of that land and so forth. But it says Miller Road, that's it. Now, how does anybody know? And I went through the names of Gawler streets and there's dozens in there where you've actually got them as the full name and to the road or whatever it may be. And it was interesting hearing what Councillor Goldstein just said then. Murray Hillier owned all the land where Hillier Road is out there. but Hillier Road now with the bypass extends across the other side. So it's like in a different area, runs out to the outskirts of Gawler. So, you know, I don't know how to put it, but we don't seem to be representing the icons of this town by the naming of a road or whatever. You know, I suppose I'm looking at a lot of different ones, McGonigal Drive and McGonigal. Think about what that lady's done for sport and that in our community. She's a legend. Is it wrong that we should name a street after her? How many McGonigals, other than her husband or whatever, live in that street? You know, and I think this is where I'm coming from. I think we've got to take a little bit more time. Merv Fryer, you know, you're talking about Fryer or Fry. Well, there's Len Fry and Merv Fryer. You know, they were great bowlers and that in the town. And I'm just wondering, when these names come to be, we as a council don't get to see those names until they come to us here now. So I'm just wondering if maybe throughout the year there could be a workshop on this particular thing, because I believe it's very important. I think the biggest hurt that I had, and none of the family speak to me anymore, is about the Springwood development. One of the greatest persons involved with horses in this fraternity was the Gooley family, Jim Gooley. And Jim Gooley's daughter married Robert Ames and so forth. There's no Gooleys, there's no Ames's Road named after them anywhere, and it's all built on their land. I'm just saying that I'd like to see that.
I think there is an Ames Drive somewhere. Yeah.
Where's the Ames Drive?
That's at Evanston Park area.
Yeah, but I'm talking about it being where the land that they owned and they lived. And I think it's so important that we do show recognition to the legends of our town. There's an Eastick, you know, like, I mean, look at Dr. Bruce Eastick, you know, it's called Eastick Drive or whatever it may be. Well, you know, Bruce Eastick it should be. So I just wonder, looking through the names of all the streets in Gawler, it seemed like around about in the 70s, we stopped naming the full name of the persons that may well live in that particular area. So I'm open to discussion if anybody's got any other comments about it, but I'm just saying that we should be representing the icons of our town that have grown up and developed this community.
I think the way that Councillor Goldstone's moved that with Hillier, I mean, what's to say the part of South, with Evanston South can't be called Murray Hillier Road? And the other part stays Hillier Road. There's nothing to stop that, but that's up to us as a council, in conjunction with the staff, as far as I'm concerned. They bring names to us, then we go through it and say, yeah, why don't we call that one in Evanston South Murray Hillier Road now and leave the other one at Hillier Road? And that way you have a difference, and then the same thing's there. So, sorry, I think Councillor Fraser had something to say.
It's really just a comment. For example, I live in Cameron Street. And in Cameron Street, first of all, it's broken into because you've got the road blocked off, and then you've got the church. But the numbers, number two starts right down this end, and then the opposite side, right? For example, I'm number 21. You'd think 23 would be across the road, but 23 is right down the other end by the train line. You know, and as far as anybody trying to find you, you have to say, you know, you're up Todd Street end, not down by the train line end. That's real. I don't know what you can do about that. It's been like that forever, I guess, but that's really confusing as well. So
yeah, it's a nightmare for emergency services, trust me.
Yeah.
It isn't a nightmare for emergency services. Yeah. Any further? Well, you look at my name, Little. You couldn't call that anywhere because it wouldn't mean anything. So that's the way it is. You've got a small name, you're stuck with it. That's sorry. Any other further discussions? Councillor, I've lost what? Shanks. Whatever. Wait, go on. It's not staying. Now it is.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, look, I think it's a good move just to get the report back and see what's going on. I used to be the tradie that is sitting up at High Street here in Gawler and ringing the client saying, I'm pretty sure I'm out the front, but they're in Williston. So we've all done it throughout our time. And, you know, it's not until I see these streets lined up next to each other that I go, oh yeah, there is actually a fair few. And the amount of times that it's tripped me over has been, you know, if you actually counted them, there is a fair number. So it's funny for us, but as Councillor Little pointed out, you know, emergency services and where there is some problems and making it that, you know, where they get tripped up, I think it's definitely worth re-looking at, and I look forward to the report to come back. And I hope the stakeholders of these streets actually do take this opportunity to provide some input as well. So yeah, I'm happy with how it sits, and chucking that extra street on doesn't change my position on that.
Thank you. Any other further discussion? You wish to close the debate? I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Up to 7.3. When I find it. We have an office recommendation. Councillor Shanks, you wish to move it?
Yeah, look, I'm happy to move the report how it sits. Just a bit of a shout out, I guess, to Jordan. There has been a lot of positive comments coming back from the engagement that you've able to have with the residents. So it's been really good with the communication. They've appreciated that line of engagement. So that's been really positive. Look, I think point 5 is one of the important ones. I would really like to see this 40,000. As you know, this was a budget bid that I moved, and we got it above the line to go out for community consultation. I think $40,000 at no means gets everything done on what the problems are that has been raised by this community in just the playground area alone. We know that, but if we do support the further engagement here and just keep that line of communication, we have a real opportunity to tick off 1 or 2 of the items that are real sticking points for the residents in that area. So just, yeah, I think supporting the motion how it sits does allow that organic communication to keep on happening. And I do know there was a few residents that wanted to be here tonight that I'm sure are tuning in. So this just continues the conversation and shows that we are listening, and yeah, so I'm happy to support it.
We have a seconder for that. Councillor Fraser, you wish to speak?
I actually found the report on the playground to be quite scathing. So I'm hoping that Aspire have actually read it and feel embarrassed about the playgrounds that they've put there, because they're really not up to scratch at all. And I would be really interested to see, although we've signed off on it and probably the chances of them doing anything more is negligible, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I have a question, Mr. Lena. How long has that playground been there?
Through the chair, it's mentioned in the report that was handed over in February 2016.
So we had a look at it just not long before that. Just
Yeah,
saying.
correct.
Yeah, so it's about 6 years, like I thought. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Councillor Kosh.
Look, I've got concerns with this just in the process. Normally when you do an audit of something, it's good practice to actually go back to all the stakeholders and get comment and feedback before you write the final report. My concern is that we haven't actually gone back to the landscape architects for their input before this report was written and given to us. So I'm not sure where we stand with that now, because it's sort of, I think it's out of sync, and we should have given the landscape architects that opportunity to respond, because it is a bit scathing, I suppose, to them, and now it's a public document. So I don't know where we stand. So I'm quite uncomfortable with it.
Mr. Lena, could you answer that question, please?
Yes, certainly. As staff, we've been progressing this as quick as we can. It's taken quite a bit of engagement with the local community, met with Lancer twice, and had to undertake this independent review per se. It's not a certification, it's a review. And I think the landscape architects were quite clear on that. The part of the intent of progressing this now is that we do need to consult back with that community. We've got a budget that's going to be adopted in the next month. We've got $40,000 allocated, and we wanted their views in regards to where it was allocated so we could actually deliver it next financial year. The community were they raised openly some of the concerns with respect to safety. And what we've said here is that, yes, there's if against some of the standards, some of those concerns may be justified. However, we'll take it back. There would have been a safety and design review that would have been undertaken and go back to the original designers and get that information and feed that back. We have engaged with LANSA per se in regards to both the design and the safety issues. They are considering their position with respect to further contributions, and the intent is to bring a position back to council once they've made that position known as to how we might want to move forward.
Okay. Councillor Hughes first, then the Mayor.
Yeah, I think it also reflects on council, because as councillors, we actually went and inspected this playground with council staff, I think just prior to handover. And we mentioned the fact of the safety fencing, the rocks area, sunset. As councillors, we're not experts in this area, but we did raise these issues with the staff and we were told by staff that no, it was all above board. The designs had been signed off and certified, and so we as councillors raised those issues and those concerns. So I do think that Aspire should be putting some funds towards this and working, and those original designs that were signed off as being safe need to come out as well, because I think that's what the council staff must have relied upon at the time. And I think councillors, my memory of that inspection did raise issues about the playground and the age appropriateness and just the hazards of even slippery rocks and things like that. And just the issues of trying to supervise children in that area was all raised by the councillors on the tour. So yeah, I do hope that those original documents are pulled out and that there is some funding from Aspire. And yeah, I think it was that tour was just prior to handover, or 8 years ago. It was a while ago. Yeah,
6.
It was a good thing. I think it's something as councillors we should do. More often, because we actually went to about 6 or 7 sites that afternoon, and it was really good, and sort of helped us for, I think, the next, well, it's still going on now, I suppose, 6 or 7 years later, we're still, it's helping us with discussion. So I think that's important. But yeah, I'm happy to support this motion, but I do think there needs to be a lot more work, and I agree with Councillor Shanks about the engagement with the community. But I do think the developers really need to also be more active and actually put some funds into this, because it is a bit disappointing for everyone involved, I think.
Mayor?
Yeah, I think what this says is that the community concerns have been vindicated. And I remember that tour of the elected members, and Councillor Hughes is right. Concerns were raised about this particular area. I think it says it well on page 44, where council staff have reflected on lessons learned from this investigation. I think there's a lot of learnings here. It's a really bad look for development when you get an outcome like this, and it takes community action to actually effect change. So I think that the community needs to be congratulated for bringing this and continuing to advocate for this. Where it goes, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. I think that the learnings have to be really put into action and put into better practice going forward. because this report is really scathing. It's really scathing. It is a one-sided report because we don't have a response from the parties and I'd really like to know what their view is, and I think that would provide a much more balanced view. So I guess we'll wait for that, and I hope that we will get that information because I think that will help us understand why this is and why we are having to deal with this now. But there needs to be some rectification. I really hope that the developer takes on board this feedback and comes to the party, because I think it is quite embarrassing for this particular developer, and I'm sure that they would not like to have that sitting as a reputational risk. Well, it's actually been realised. It's not a reputational risk. It's actually a threat to their reputation. So but it also goes back to how we manage these processes as an organisation. And again, I point to the comment on page 44. So congratulations to the local community for not giving up on this. And also I think it's clear that we're listening and we're trying to make this a better outcome for this local community. And hopefully we will get there, and I'm sure we will.
Any other discussion? You might wish to close the debate, Councillor Shanks?
Yeah, look, thanks everyone for your comments. It is great to hear that in 2016 some of these concerns were raised. As the Mayor pointed out, it's vindicating the concerns of these residents. As you know, Sarah Burns came up and spoke and alerted us to it, which resulted in a couple of meetings that were able to facilitate, and Sam and the team went out and had those conversations. The point that these residents always made was, we don't care what piece of paper tells us this is safe, we're the ones using it and it's not. Now, what this report does is it arms them with, again, vindicating their beliefs, and it does give the confidence, I guess, for some of the elected members that did actually go 2016 and have pointed out, well, some of these items actually we did flag, and it's good to hear that. And I think the direction we are on is a good one. You know, this process has been a long one, as these processes are. But look, I think all going well. I'm optimistic that again, that 0.5 it provides an outcome for a community that has been willing to put in the work, and that's exactly what's happened. And these are real risks, and they're even more real now. So. Yeah, look, it'd be great to fully support this, and yeah, we'll have another chat when it comes up to council.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. And then we move on to the next one, 7.4, policy review. Somewhere on the floor? Somebody want to move the officer's recommendation? The Mayor? You wish to speak? You want to have a seconder? Councillor Goldstone, you wish to speak? Is there any discussion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. What are we up to now? There's no items listed for discussion. What's going on here? We're going to be finished here, Lisa. No items listed for questions without notice. There's none. Any motions without notice? God, this must be a record. I'll declare the meeting. Oh, sorry. Yeah, oh, sorry. Okay, I'll go back. Okay, Councillor Shanks.
I guess this is probably just for those that are listening at home for the Aspire Estate. When will the engagement now kick off? Given this is a recommendation of council, I'm assuming we still can't do anything until council endorse this recommendation. If all going well, when will the communication open back up again for the 40,000?
Mr. Delina.
That was a bit wordy for you, wasn't it, Kate? Sorry.
The recommendation is actually the infrastructure IES committee can actually endorse consultation to occur, so there is no need for it to go to council per se. I have to, I actually haven't touched base with staff in regards to the actual timing, and I'll circulate a response to the committee after the meeting.
Thank you. Well, now, there's no motion without notice. I declare the meeting closed. It has to be a record, surely.